Fan letter. Sending a fan letter can be a nice way to share your admiration with your favorite actor, athlete, author, or other celebrity. Use this advice to get the best results from your letter and to avoid embarrassment. Introduction. Before you write your fan letter, think a bit about your purpose. Do you just want to express your admiration, or would you like an autograph? If it's the latter, be sure you ask for it explicitly, otherwise you may be disappointed. Of course, you're envisioning that your reader will be that person you admire so much. However, you should be aware that most famous people have someone at their management company screening their letters. Remember, then, your correspondence is not entirely private. Brainstorming a fan letter can be great fun, and a creative letter can stand out from the pack. If you can tell a special story and catch your reader's attention, you stand a better chance of being noticed. Pay attention to readability as you organize your letter. Make any requests early in the letter. Don't bury a request for an autograph or a photo in the middle of your message. Be careful with your tone as you write your draft. It's fine to be enthusiastic, but do try to sound rational. If you sound like a crazy person, you might not get the outcome you want. Take a break from your draft before you send it. Reread it and revise as necessary. Do decide what you want. Are you writing just to express your appreciation or to ask for something? If you want an autograph or a photo, say so. Do make your letter interesting and worthwhile for the reader. Celebrities read lots of letters from people who love them and want to marry them. If you can tell a personal story or share something of real value, your letter is more likely to stand out. You might offer specifics about how they inspired you or affected your life in some way. Really think about how your reader might feel about the comments you make in your letter and tailor them accordingly. Do keep it brief. Remember, their time is at a premium. Long letters are less likely to be read than short ones that make a compelling point. Do provide a self-addressed stamped envelope if you want an autograph sent back to you. Make it easy for your reader to reply. Do close your letter by wishing your reader well. Do respect the celebrity's preferences when it comes to fan mail. If you have an agency or management address for him, don't use the internet to find his home address and slip your letter under his garden gate. Most celebrities just shred mail that finds its way to their personal address. Don't be creepy. Don't say anything to suggest you've been stalking the reader or that you intend to do so. Don't say that you know you have a special spiritual connection with the celebrity. Don't try to draw your reader into your fantasies. There are lots of weirdos out there. Don't you be one of them. Don't be sexually inappropriate, even if you feel you love them. No disturbing sex or love talk. No matter how you feel about this person, remember you've never met him, so be respectful. Don't ask invasive personal questions. Believe it or not, celebrities have feelings too, and inappropriate questions can be hurtful. Don't send weird gifts. No sexy pictures of yourself, no food, nothing valuable, nothing irreplaceable or of great value to you. Don't lie. Don't say you've met before, unless you have, and you're distant cousins, that you were his sister's best friend in high school, or that you're dying of a terminal disease and must meet him before you depart this earth. Celebrities have heard it all before, and ultimately it degrades you. Not like this. Dear Tim, I just wanted to let you know I think you're the best actor in the world. I've seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show 37 times, and I still think you're incredibly hot. Even if that's true, don't put it in your letter. It's a little scary. Fandom can border on obsession and still be quite harmless, but don't try to draw the celebrity into your fantasy life. You are so sexy in that movie. Think about how the reader might react to what you write. If you think he might squirm or want to stick his head in the oven, keep it to yourself. You can find another way to express appreciation that won't make him uncomfortable. I wish my legs looked that good in fishnet stockings. And Tim Curry wishes he had a nickel for every time he's heard that remark. Actually, he really wished he'd never heard that remark at all. Really think about who you're writing to and how he might respond to your comments. I haven't even seen anything else you've done, although I know you've done a lot. It's beginning to look like Ashley is a fan of Frankenfurter rather than Tim Curry. Ashley can feel however she likes, of course, but this kind of comment might not make an actor very happy. If you never did anything besides Rocky Horror, I'd still think you were the best actor in the world. Don't dream it. Be it. Lots of love, Ashley Marquette. Like this. Dear Mr. Curry, I went to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show last night. It wasn't my first time, but I just enjoy your performance so much, and every time I see it, I notice new things about it. It really is amazing. Ashley has seen Rocky Horror 37 times, but she spares Tim that detail and instead offers meaningful praise of his performance. This may sound strange, but I think Rocky Horror has actually made me a better person. The first time I saw it, I thought it was weird and the characters were freaks. Since I've seen it a few more times with my friends, I think I understand it better, and it's made me a lot more tolerant of different kinds of people. I don't know if that was the intention, but I think that's what it's done. This is a really nice compliment. It involved some serious thought, and it's the kind of thing most celebrities like to hear, that their work has made a difference. I can't wait to find some of the other movies and TV you've done and to learn more about your career. Ashley expresses interest in learning more about Tim's career. She's taking him seriously as an actor and not mistaking him for a character he played. I hope to see you in a new project again soon. I'm really looking forward to that. Best wishes for the future, Ashley Marquette. Ashley wishes Tim well for the future. Personal journal. There's no right or wrong way to keep a personal journal. Your journal should serve a purpose for you, and you're the only one who can decide what that purpose is. If you'd like to keep a personal journal, these hints and tips can help you get started and keep you going once you have. I know what I know, and I write it. Octavio Paz, writer, poet, and diplomat. Do decide why you want to keep a journal. There are no rules, but it can be easier to develop and maintain a journaling habit if you have a clear idea about why you're doing it. Will your journal be a place for personal reflection? Are you keeping track of an activity or a march toward a goal? Planning weekly or daily goals? Do you think you'll want to refer to the journal later, or is it just for the experience of writing it now? Do choose a medium, on the computer or on paper, online, by email, or in a Word file. If you want to write on paper, buy a journal or notebook. It helps to have a single place where you write your journal rather than doing it on separate pieces of paper. Consider what will be most convenient and what will be most satisfying to you. Do make a schedule. It's easier to stay consistent if you plan to write at the same time every day. Some people wake up a little early to write, others write just before bedtime. The baby's nap time can be a good quiet time. Look at your day and see where your likeliest times are. Do find a good place to write. It's best to find a place where you can be alone. You don't have to write in the same place every day, but doing so helps reinforce the habit. Do write as consistently as you can. There may be days when you simply cannot find the time, but be as consistent as possible, given the demands of your life. Do develop templates if you are using your journal to track daily activities. Don't censor yourself. Your journal is only for you, so feel free to write what you please. Don't feel you have to write the same thing every day. If you suddenly feel like writing a song or a poem, go for it. Don't criticize yourself. Going back and correcting your grammar after the fact can make journaling a drag. Let the journal do its thing without beating yourself up. Don't give up. It's natural to miss a day or two or even a week, but don't let that discourage you. It's better to miss a few days and pick it up again than to abandon it altogether. Don't show it to others unless you're really prepared to do so. Sharing your journal can violate your privacy and might hurt others. It's yours to do with as you please, but be sure you think carefully before showing it around. Habit journal. Some people keep a journal to track a habit, what they eat and how much, how often they exercise, how much money they spend, and so on. You can also keep a journal to track your progress in developing new and presumably healthier habits. To be most useful, habit journals should be written as regularly as possible. Journaling itself might become a new and rewarding habit. Dream journal. Keep a notebook and pen by your bed and record your dreams as soon as you wake up or even in the middle of the night. Write while the dream is still fresh in your mind. Baby journal. Make your own baby book and record milestones, funny stories, and happy memories. You can also use the journal to record medical history, growth, and other important information. Experience journal. Some people find it helpful to keep a journal about their feelings when they are going through a particularly significant experience: the death of a loved one, going back to school, a divorce, a move to a different part of the country. Recording your feelings can help you understand them, and it can be interesting to go back and reflect later. Birthday journal. Write a journal entry every year on your birthday and include photos. You can write about your birthday celebration and who you spent it with. You can also use the journal to reflect on the previous year and make plans for the upcoming one. For more journaling ideas and advice, visit www.howtowriteanything.com. Get well note. When someone is ill or recovering from surgery, a get well note can help cheer them. The personal touch of a real note or card rather than an email is called for in this case. The gesture will mean more if the message is handwritten and delivered by mail. Buy a commercial get well card and personalize it with your own message, or write your note on nice stationery. Introduction. The purpose of a get well note is to wish the reader well and to let him know that he is in your thoughts. When you compose your note, be yourself. Think about what you might say to your reader if you were talking on the phone, and take it from there. A get well note should be brief, so it won't require a lot of brainstorming. Take a moment to put yourself in your reader's shoes. What might she be feeling? What might cheer him up? The model outline can help you organize your get well message. It's a good idea to write out a draft or at least a quick outline before you write in the card or on that fancy note paper. As you write your draft, use an upbeat and encouraging tone. Review your draft from the reader's point of view. How would you feel if you received this note? Revise, write your message in the card or on the note paper, and send it off. It will be appreciated. Model outline. A get well message can be brief. Opening. Tell the reader you're sorry to hear they're not feeling well. Middle. Explicitly state your hope they will feel better soon. Offer to help if you're willing to do so. Conclusion. Finish your message on a warm note of hope for a speedy recovery. Do. Do send your note promptly. A get well note means more if it arrives in a timely fashion. Do take the time to personalize a commercial get well card with your own message. You don't need to write a lot, but be sure to do more than just sign it. Do be yourself. Write in your own voice and express your own feelings. A message in your own words will mean the most to your reader. Do mention the illness, accident, or procedure, but don't delve too deeply into it. Do express your concern and good wishes explicitly. Do offer to visit or help in some way, if it's appropriate, and if you're willing to do so. Don't. Don't allude to the diagnosis unless you've been officially notified of it. Some people prefer to keep medical issues private. If you've just heard through the grapevine, it's enough to mention your surgery, your hospitalization, or that you've been ill. Don't go overboard with your cheerleading to the extent that the reader feels you're downplaying her condition. Someone who has just had major surgery probably won't be back to normal in no time. Be encouraging, but don't gloss over the challenges the reader is facing. Don't write at length about a similar experience you've had. If you've had a similar illness or procedure, you're in a good position to offer encouragement to the reader. But remember, this isn't about you, and your reader's experience is not likely to be exactly the same as yours. Don't offer a miracle cure. You might have just read a convincing article about ginkgo biloba or vitamin D or kelp extract, but avoid giving your reader off-the-cuff medical advice. Don't make a vague offer of help or offer to help if you don't really want to or can't. Please let me know if there's anything I can do. Sounds nice, but your reader is not likely to take you up on such a vague offer. It's better to spend a moment thinking about what your reader might truly need, for instance, help with grocery shopping, gardening, or errands. Making a specific offer shows your thoughtfulness. Don't offer to visit if you don't intend to. Don't talk about God or religion unless you're sure about the reader's views on the subject. Not like this. Dear Karen, Ronnie let me know about your ovarian cyst. It's better not to mention the specific diagnosis unless you're sure it's public information or the reader has told you directly. And I wanted to let you know I'm thinking of you. I had my appendix removed years ago, and I know how you're feeling now. The appendix had burst, and I was laid up for about 6 weeks. I've never been so bored. Jackie's talking a little too much about herself here. She means well, but she should really keep the focus more on Karen. I know just what you're going through, and you have all my sympathy. Jackie probably doesn't know exactly what Karen is going through. She's trying to be encouraging, but she's actually a little dismissive. I hope you're taking good care of yourself and feeling better and better with each passing day. Just take it easy, and you'll be up and around before you know it. Jackie is cheerleading, but she doesn't really know the details of Karen's condition. She should tone it down a bit. Please let me know if there's anything at all I can do to help. XOXO, Jackie. It's a nice offer, but does she mean it? Karen would feel more comfortable calling on her for help if Jackie made a specific offer. Like this. Dear Karen, Ronnie let me know about your surgery, and I wanted to let you know I'm thinking of you. I had a similar procedure years ago, and I still remember how painful it was. Jackie shares her experience just to commiserate with Karen, not to tell her she knows exactly how she feels. This is the way to do it. I hope you're taking good care of yourself and feeling better and better with each passing day. Please get plenty of rest so you can heal. Jackie's focus is on Karen throughout the note. Do you need any help around the house? I remember from my own surgery that lifting was a problem for a while. I'd be happy to come over and help with chores or shopping. Just say the word. XOXO, Jackie. This is a sincere and practical offer of help. Jackie refers to her own experience to imagine the kind of help Karen might need. If you make a specific offer, the reader will feel more convinced that you mean it, and she'll be more likely to ask for the help she needs. Serious illness. In the event of a serious illness with an uncertain outcome, take some extra care in crafting your message. Do let the reader know you're sorry he is ill and that you are thinking of him. If you pray, and if you know the reader is a believer, you can mention you are praying for him. Do keep your focus on the reader, not on your feelings. Although you are writing to express your concern, the focus of your letter should be on the reader rather than on your feeling upset. Do learn about the reader's illness. Having some information about the reader's situation will help you craft your message. Don't discuss the condition explicitly. This research is just for your own understanding. Do let the reader know you would like to see him if you would, and if it's practical and possible to do so. Do follow up and stay in touch. Don't send a jokey or silly card. Some commercial get-well cards, those with busty nurses or dogs wearing cones on their heads, are not appropriate for a serious illness. A card that makes someone smile is fine, but don't send anything that trivializes the illness. Don't offer medical advice or suggest a miracle cure. Sometimes people do this because they are too overwhelmed by the news to accept it. By all means, keep hoping for a miraculous recovery, but it's ultimately selfish to draw your reader into this kind of wild hope. Don't write about God or religion unless you know the person is a believer. Respect your reader's beliefs. Dear Alan, I was so sorry to hear about your diagnosis. I hope you are taking good care of yourself and keeping your spirits up. I would love to drop in and see you one day after work if you are feeling up to it. Does that sound good? I'll give you a call and check in. In the meantime, please know I am thinking of you and sending all my very best wishes. Please do take good care. XOXO, Stephanie. Terminal illness. If someone is diagnosed with a terminal illness, your message requires special sensitivity and care. Your message will depend on how close you are to the reader and how public the diagnosis is. If you're writing to someone with whom you have a close relationship and whose diagnosis is out in the open, you can speak more freely. Be very sensitive to your relationship with the reader and his attitude toward the diagnosis. If you don't expect to see the person before he passes away, your note will essentially be a kind of goodbye message. Choosing what to write will be a very personal decision. Rather than saying goodbye explicitly, try to express what that person has meant to you and how you value the relationship. Recall a happy memory or an incident where you learned something from the person. It's a blessing to have the opportunity to say what you want to say. Don't procrastinate. If you know someone is terminally ill, send your message right away. Don't send a get-well card. If you don't expect the reader to recover, write your note on a blank card or stationery, or choose a commercial card that simply says, "Thinking of you," rather than "Get well." Don't mention death unless the reader has done so first or unless you are very sure she is comfortable talking about it openly. Don't ruminate about mortality or the nature of life unless the reader has initiated that discussion. Dear Helen, I was very sorry to hear about your illness. I hope you are taking good care of yourself and that you have all the help you need. I have been thinking so much about you, particularly your friendship with Mother over the years. I remember so many afternoons coming home from school to find you and Mother having tea and talking. I also remember the time Shadow stole the cookies right off the plate. I want you to know that Mother considered you one of her very best friends and was especially grateful for your loyalty and support after Daddy got sick. I don't know if she ever expressed that to you, but I want you to know how much this family appreciates you. I'll phone you this weekend and see if you feel like talking. Please know I am thinking of you and your family. Much love, Diane. Obituary. There are many things to do when a loved one passes away, and writing an obituary can be one of the more daunting tasks on the list. Writing an obituary for the local paper is a way of getting the news out to that person's wider circle of acquaintances and inviting them to the funeral or memorial service. Although writing an obituary can be difficult, people will appreciate hearing the news and having the opportunity to say goodbye. Introduction. The purpose of an obituary is to provide a public notice of someone's death and to offer information about any funeral or memorial service that is planned. Writing an obituary can also be a way of paying tribute to the deceased. Your readers may be old friends and acquaintances of the deceased. An obituary can contain a vast array of different information. Use the model outline to follow to help brainstorm content and organize yours. Plan to go through more than one draft of the obituary unless it is going to be a simple death notice with little or no additional information. Consider sharing your draft with one or more trusted parties. It can be helpful to get other people's perspectives, and they might remind you of something you've forgotten. Revise and edit accordingly. Model outline. An obituary can contain a great deal of information or very little. Choose from these categories. Name/announcement. Full name of the deceased, including nickname if any, maiden name if any, age at death. Place of residence, date of death, place of death, cause of death. Life. Date of birth, place of birth, names of parents, childhood, siblings, schools, friends. Marriages/partnerships, date, place, name of spouse/partner. Education, awards and honors. Employment, places of residence. Hobbies, interests, activities. Charitable, religious, fraternal, political, and other affiliations. Positions held. Accomplishments. Family. Survived by and place of residence. Spouse/partner. Children, in birth order and their spouses. Grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren. Parents, grandparents, siblings, in birth order. Other relatives, such as nephews, nieces, cousins, and in-laws. Friends. Pets. Predeceased by and date of death. Spouse. Children, in birth order. Grandchildren. Siblings, in birth order. Others, such as nephews, nieces, cousins, and in-laws. Pets. Service. Day, date, time, place. Visitation information, if applicable. Reception information, if applicable. Other memorial, vigil, or graveside services, if applicable. Clergy and pallbearers. Place of interment. Funeral home. Closing. Memorial funds established. Other suggestions for memorial donations. Thanks to hospital, care workers, and others. Do. Do try to do what the deceased would have wanted. The wishes of the deceased are more important than yours right now. Focusing on his wishes can relieve the burden on you and can help smooth over any disagreements. Do be sure the obituary is accurate and complete. Have you omitted any family members or other important information? Ask someone to read your draft to catch anything you might have inadvertently left out. Do try to convey something about the deceased values and passions. In addition to listing family members and other facts, think a bit about her volunteer and free time activities. Do consider writing several versions of the obituary. You may wish to write a short notice for the newspaper and develop a longer one for other publications, a family scrapbook, or a website. Do consider drafting your own obituary. You can save your loved ones time, struggle, and indecision if you write your own obituary in advance. Make sure they have a copy or know where they can find it when they need it. Don't rush or cut corners. There's a lot going on when someone dies, but the obituary is important. A sloppy obituary that doesn't include accurate information, or one that appears too late for people to plan to attend the service, can be hurtful. Don't manifest old grudges or hard feelings in the obituary. You may be angry at a family member for some reason, but don't take it out on them by leaving them out of the obituary or slighting them. Don't include anything in the obituary the deceased would not have wanted there. For instance, some people are uncomfortable with sharing the cause of death. Don't share your draft with too many other people. It's very wise to get input from others, particularly when you're upset and possibly not thinking very clearly. However, remember that everyone who reads it will have an opinion, so be careful about how many different opinions you solicit. Don't print a home address in a public obituary. Doing so can alert thieves to an empty house or a widowed spouse, as well as risking identity theft. Writing your own obituary. Increasingly, when death is anticipated, people are writing their own obituaries. In this way, they save their loved ones the difficulty when the time comes, just as paying for your funeral in advance can take pressure off those who survive you. Although some people feel uncomfortable writing their own obituary, this practice does have advantages. Surviving family members might not remember specific dates, for instance, birth, employment, retirement, deaths of other family members. Survivors might not recall relevant people, places, employers, or organizations, and might not have the correct spelling for these. In addition, surviving family members might be unaware of your memberships in volunteer or community organizations. Finally, writing your own obituary allows you to specify charities for donations that your survivors wouldn't have thought of. If you do draft your own obituary, make sure your loved ones have a copy of it or know exactly where to find it when the time comes. Some people have found that starting to write their own obituary has launched a personal memoir writing project. A memoir can be a very nice legacy for those you leave behind, as well as an enjoyable project for you. Like this. Harrison, Matthew Robert. Professor of Climatology at the University of Arizona, father to 3 and grandfather to 4, died from complications of Alzheimer's disease, April 3rd, at his home in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was 89. Samantha B. Vasquez. Samantha B. Vasquez, 66, of Brooks Farm, passed away Wednesday, May 30th, 2012, at St. Mary's Hospital. She was born May 20th, 1946, in Walker City. Sam graduated in 1969 with a degree in pharmacology from the University of Illinois. She met her husband, Leo, at Pfizer, where they both worked. More recently, Sam spent much of her time enjoying her recently acquired thoroughbred horse, Zoot. She also was working at Second Chance Thoroughbred Rescue, where she nurtured her love of animals. Sam is survived by her husband, Leo Vasquez, whom she married June 4th, 1973, her children, Jennifer McCormick and John Vasquez, her mother, Phyllis Morton Ledbetter, and her in-laws, Luis and Elizabeth Vasquez. The visitation will be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Tuesday, June 5th, with a service at 1 p.m. at Thomason Funeral Home, 659 Beechwood Road, Brooks Farm. In lieu of flowers, memorials would be appreciated to Second Chance Thoroughbred Rescue, 209 Lenox Road, Moscow, Illinois, 60010. For information, call the funeral home at 800-800-1111. Online condolences may be made at thomason.org. For more sample obituaries, visit www.howtowriteanything.com. Condolence letter. Writing a condolence letter can be a difficult challenge. It's hard to know what to say when someone has died, and we sometimes feel that nothing we say can possibly help relieve the pain the bereaved is suffering. No matter how inadequate it may seem, a kind letter from a well-wisher can be a tremendous comfort to someone who has just lost a loved one. A sensitive and thoughtful sympathy letter will tell the bereaved that her loved one is fondly remembered and show her how much you care. Although it may be a struggle, a good condolence letter can be one of the most important things you'll ever write. An expression of condolences must be done through a card or letter. Email, no matter how well intended, is simply too informal for this occasion. Introduction. A condolence letter serves 3 purposes: to express sympathy to the bereaved about the death of a loved one, to share your affection or regard for the deceased, and to let the bereaved know you are thinking about him and willing to help. Anything that goes beyond addressing these 3 purposes can get you into trouble, so make sure everything in your letter works toward achieving them. Keep your relationship with your reader in mind and tailor the content of the letter accordingly. To make your letter as effective as possible, it's good to brainstorm content, thinking back over your relationship with the deceased, looking for some special memories or insights to include in the letter. Following the model outline can help you organize your thoughts. As you draft, try to keep the letter brief and to the point. Sincerity in these letters is prized above all things, so don't worry too much about whether your writing is at its finest. Write from the heart, and your message will be heard and appreciated. To be safe, you should keep the tone of your condolence letter rather formal. Even if you choose to relate an amusing anecdote about the deceased, your overall tone should be one of respect. This is not the time to push the envelope when it comes to style. Because these letters can be difficult to write, it's a good idea to allow yourself extra time to revise the letter once you've drafted it. Ideally, let the first draft sit overnight and read it with a fresh eye the next day to make sure you're saying exactly what you want to say and that you haven't inadvertently included anything that could offend. Model outline. 3 paragraphs is a good length for a condolence letter. This simple outline can help guide you. Paragraph 1. Express your sympathy for the bereaved. Paragraph 2. Demonstrate your regard for the deceased, perhaps by relating an anecdote or describing how special he was. Paragraph 3. Express your concern for the well-being of the bereaved and offer any help you are genuinely willing to provide. Do express your sorrow at the death and your heartfelt sympathy for the reader. Do make the effort to relate a little anecdote about the person who has passed, perhaps something amusing, an incident that you think expresses the character or personality of the deceased, a good time you had together, or a time when the person was especially helpful to you. What you say depends on your relationship with the reader and the person who has died, but selecting some personal details lets the reader know that people appreciated her beloved and that there is a community of remembrance and continuation. This is likely the part of your letter that your reader will remember and appreciate the most. Do let the reader know that he is not alone. Tell him that he is in your thoughts, and if you are willing and able to help out in a more direct way, say so. For example, let the person know that he should feel free to call any time, or say you'll call him in a week or so just to check up on him. Grieving is a long process, and it's good to know that people will be there for you beyond the first round of condolence cards. Do hand-write the card or letter to make your message more personal. Tip. The late Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was a great letter writer, and she often included well-known quotations in her letters of condolence. If you're struggling for the right words, try consulting a book of quotations or an online source. Don't limit yourself to quotations about death. Search for topics like loyalty, kindness, or other characteristics that you feel describe the deceased. Don't put it off. The difficulty of writing a condolence letter makes it hard to get started, but a timely expression of sympathy does the most good. A belated condolence letter is better than none, so if you have put off writing the letter, do it as soon as you can. Don't send an email. A condolence letter is one of those cases in which an email simply won't do. You must send a paper letter or card. There are a few extraordinary exceptions. If the bereaved is traveling and away from her mailbox, an email message is better than none. But make sure a card or letter from you is waiting for her when she arrives home. Don't rely on a commercial sympathy card to express your feelings. It's fine to buy and send such a card, but to show you really care, you must personalize it with a handwritten note. Don't dwell on how bad you feel about the loss. You may feel that you are sharing the reader's pain, but remember that the purpose of the letter is to offer sympathy and support to the reader, not to make a display of your own grief. Don't allude to religious or other spiritual or philosophical views of death unless you're quite sure the reader shares those views. Mentioning God's purpose, for instance, may offend a reader who does not believe in God. Remember, your focus should be on the reader and her needs at all times. Don't offer advice. Now is not the time to help the reader move on or achieve closure. The grieving process takes time and is different for everyone who experiences it. The purpose of your letter is to acknowledge the loss and to express condolence and support in the here and now, not to push the reader along into the future. The only exception to this rule is that you may wish to gently urge the reader to take good care of herself at this time. In doing so, you're expressing your concern for her. Don't say anything to suggest that the death was a blessing or a relief. Even if the deceased suffered for a long time before death, this is not the time to say, "He's better off now," or "At least he is no longer in pain." Your letter should treat the death as a loss to be mourned. In situations in which the death was long anticipated, survivors often experience difficult conflicting emotions. Rather than stir up such emotions, your letter should be an unqualified expression of sympathy and condolence. Don't offer to help if you're really not prepared to. Most people take these offers as pro forma, but be aware that if you offer help, you may actually be called upon to do so. Not like this. Dear Carol, I can't tell you how terrible I feel about Justin's passing. It's been on my mind day and night since I got the news, and I find it very difficult to express my feelings about this loss. However terrible you feel, it's a sure thing that Carol feels worse. Don't write about yourself or how difficult it is to write this letter. Focus on Carol and her feelings. He was a wonderful man, and we will all miss him terribly. Justin was unfailingly cheerful, friendly, helpful, and kind. He was a wonderful neighbor, always good-natured and willing to help. Instead of simply listing the deceased's good qualities, why not illustrate them with a special memory that the reader can enjoy and cherish? I know you must be going through a very difficult time. I hope it is of some comfort to know that God has a purpose in all things, though it may not be clear to us. In time, I'm sure we will all come to accept what has happened. Unless you're very, very sure about Carol's religious beliefs, you should keep your religious ruminations to yourself. Carol may not believe in God, or she may be very angry with God right now. Remember, the objective of your letter is to express sympathy and support, so focus on crafting a sensitive letter that will help Carol without risking offense. Mark and I send our love and deepest sympathies to you at this difficult time. Love, Louise. Like this. Dear Carol, Mark and I were deeply saddened by the news of Justin's death, and we send our heartfelt sympathy to you. A simple and direct opening can often be more eloquent and effective than something flowery and elaborate, right from your heart. My most vivid memory of Justin is from a cold, rainy Christmas Eve. Mark and I were new in the house and had brought home an enormous Christmas tree, far too big to fit in the stand. When we came over to borrow a saw to trim the trunk, Justin came back with us to help. After about an hour of effort, Justin managed to cut through a stubborn knot in the trunk and get our tree into the stand. I'm sure he wasn't anticipating spending his Christmas Eve struggling with the neighbor's tree in the cold and damp, but he kept his sense of humor long after we had lost ours, and it was thanks to him that we had a Christmas tree our first year in the house. Justin was a wonderful, kind, and generous neighbor, and we will miss him very much. Sharing this memory of Justin's kindness will comfort Carol and let her know that others cared about and appreciated her husband. I want you to know that you are in our thoughts and prayers. We hope you are taking good care of yourself at this difficult time. I will give you a call during the next week or so to see how you are doing. In the meantime, if there is anything at all we can do for you, please let us know, and we will be there for you. Love, Louise. This closing paragraph expresses concern for Carol's well-being and the commitment to follow up with her without being intrusive as she moves through the grieving process. Tip: a personal condolence letter should always be handwritten. A letter for a business associate, especially one written on behalf of the company or all the deceased's co-workers, should be typed. Suicide. When a person takes his or her own life, writing a condolence letter can be particularly delicate. Often families and loved ones are taken completely off guard by a suicide and are suffering a terrible shock. In cases in which the deceased was known to have been troubled, a tactful acknowledgement of the difficult situation is usually best. Simply ignoring the circumstances of the death may make the bereaved feel shut out and stigmatized. Tip: in the past, writers avoided mentioning the word death, instead using the euphemism passed away. While people are generally more comfortable now talking about death and dying, many still prefer to refer to a person's passing rather than his death. The choice is one of personal style, and you should use the language you and your reader feel most comfortable with. Dear Steve, I was deeply sorry to learn about the passing of your son Victor. Victor was an unfailingly kind and charming young man, and he will be missed terribly. I wish you and your family the strength to find the answers you seek. Please know that you are not alone. Paul and I are thinking of you. With best wishes always, Lisa. Violent death. The same principles apply in a case in which a person was murdered or died in unpleasant or shocking circumstances. Dear Janice, all of us at Weston share your grief and shock at John's death. He was an exemplary colleague, always willing to share insights and support team members. What's more, everyone here knew what a devoted husband and father John was. He spoke with great pride about Peter's soccer games and Tanya's enthusiasm for ballet. Such a sudden loss is difficult to understand, but we hope you can take some comfort in knowing that John's colleagues held him in the highest regard and will never forget this wonderful man. We offer our sincere condolences to you at this difficult time. Sincerely, Simon and the Technical Support Group. Loss of a pregnancy. A condolence note for the loss of a pregnancy requires some special care. The impulse to say something to make it right can be very strong, but be aware you can't do that. Your message should simply be one of sympathy and support. Do say how very sorry you are. Do focus on being supportive. Do be aware there's very little you can say to make the reader feel better about what happened. This should not be your goal. Do keep it brief. There is so little to say besides, I'm sorry. Don't force yourself to write a long note. Do offer to help, visit, or spend time with her if you so desire and are able. Don't say, at least you can have another one. Don't say, at least the pregnancy wasn't that far along. Don't mention God or religion unless you are sure the reader is a believer. Don't say, there's a reason for everything. Don't say anything that might make the reader feel the loss of the pregnancy was her fault. Many women blame themselves groundlessly for the loss of a pregnancy. Be sensitive about her feelings and simply offer your support. Don't speculate on the reasons for the loss of the pregnancy. Dear Shelley, I am so very sorry to hear about your loss. Please know that you are in my thoughts daily and that I am here for you if you need anything at all. I hope you are taking good care of yourself. I would love to see you if you're feeling up to it. I'll give you a call over the weekend to check in. Much love, Rhonda. Death of an animal. As domestic animals have evolved from house pets to companion animals, so has sensitivity to the feelings that people have about the animals they live with. The loss of such an animal can be very sad, and sending a sympathy note is entirely appropriate in such a case. Dear Erica, I was very sorry to hear about Mimi's death. She was a beautiful, sweet cat, and even a casual visitor could see what a happy and vital presence she was in your home. I hope you can take comfort in knowing that you gave her the best possible care. She was very fortunate to have such a loving home with you. Take care, Jill. Eulogy. The word eulogy comes from the Greek eu, which means good, and logos, which means word. A eulogy is a set of good words about the dead. A eulogy can be one of the most difficult things you'll ever write, but it can also be one of the most important and rewarding. A eulogy is a gift to the deceased and to the survivors. Introduction. The purpose of a eulogy is to honor the dead and to comfort the living. Rather than a reader, you will have listeners, among them the loved ones of the deceased. You should keep them in mind as you write. Your eulogy will be the product of brainstorming through many memories and insights and selecting those you feel best about presenting. Try making a list of your most vivid memories of the deceased, or a list of his strongest traits or most important accomplishments. Take your time to reflect and cull through what you want to say. It's a good idea to make a formal outline, as it's very easy to ramble. As you organize the eulogy, remember that people will be listening to it, not reading it. Make it easy to follow. You should plan to go through a couple of drafts. Consider showing your draft to someone you trust to get feedback. Have you forgotten anything? Is there anything that rings false? Since this is a speech, it's also an excellent idea to read your draft out loud to see how it sounds. Revise any places that don't flow smoothly. Ideas will probably continue coming to you as you draft and rehearse. Be open to memories and insights that arise. Read your final draft out loud and time yourself to make sure you're not going on too long. Rehearsing can also help you manage your emotions when the time comes to deliver the eulogy. Do allow yourself enough time to reflect and write. You'll do a better job and feel better about your effort if you take your time. You'll only have one chance to do this. Do focus on the deceased rather than yourself. Everyone understands you're upset. Do explain a bit about how you knew the deceased, if it's not clear. Some memorial services welcome brief eulogies from volunteers. Unless everyone at the service knows who you are and what your relationship was with the deceased, take a moment to make that clear to your listeners. Do make sure your eulogy is appropriate to the relationship you had with the deceased. Do choose material that lets the character of the deceased shine through. Perhaps an anecdote that shows how she related to other people, an act of kindness, or a decision that she made that demonstrated her values. Do talk about what you know. If you knew the deceased from work, offer insights from that part of his life. Your own relationship with the deceased can help illuminate the whole person for the audience. Do use humor judiciously. If it's appropriate to your relationship and the circumstances, you may want to tell a funny story involving the deceased. Be sure the humor isn't mean-spirited, and that it is something the deceased would have laughed about too. A well-placed laugh can be a very healing emotional release, as people remember the deceased in joy. Do consider finding an appropriate quotation, perhaps a poem or a passage from Scripture. Read from a poet or writer whom the deceased particularly liked, or find a passage that you feel conveys who she was. Do be extremely careful of your listeners' feelings. They're vulnerable, so think about the potential impact of your words. Don't dwell on your own feelings in your eulogy. Everyone at the service is sad, and your focus should be on the deceased rather than yourself. Don't violate the tone of the event. Some events are more relaxed than others. Try to get a sense of what it's going to be like. You might enjoy telling a funny story, but if it's going to offend your mother's friends, it's not worth it. Be considerate. Don't go on too long. Especially at a service where several people are speaking, keep your remarks brief and pithy. If you're not sure how long is too long, check with the other people speaking or the religious officiant, if there is one. Tip: if you are one of several people speaking at a funeral or memorial service, try to touch base with the other speakers and briefly discuss what everyone plans to say. This way, you can avoid being caught by surprise if someone else tells the very story you were planning to tell. You can also plan a more balanced program and retrospective of the person's life. Not like this. This is a very sad day for me, and I know it's hard for all of us to be here. Alan Wilson was a central part of my professional life for 35 years. I am shaken and saddened by his passing. He was an exemplary physician and a fine husband and father, and the world is poorer for his loss. The speaker is focusing on himself a bit too much. Alan was a senior colleague of mine at St. Luke's. He was always fair and caring to staff and patients alike. I looked up to him as a mentor, and he had a profound influence on the way I practiced medicine. Alan took special care with his younger colleagues. In addition to his students, he watched over those of us who were just beginning our careers. I was always extremely grateful to him for smoothing my transition to St. Luke's and for providing a model of a caring, conscientious physician. All nice sentiments, but rather vague. It would be nice to hear more specific details. As important as his professional responsibilities were, Alan's personal life was even more important to him. He was a devoted husband and father. His family meant the world to him. He adored you, Elaine, and he was deeply proud of you, Garth and Terry. He always had stories of your latest accomplishments and never failed to brag about each of your triumphs. Again, this is nice, but it's so general it might apply to almost anyone. This is an opportunity to provide a real insight into the deceased and his life and values. It sounds as though the speaker didn't really know the family. Alan's loss will be deeply felt by everyone whom his life touched, his family, friends, and colleagues. It was my privilege to know him and to serve with him. He will be sorely missed. Like this. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephen Kelly, and I was privileged to be Alan's colleague at St. Luke's Hospital for 35 years. Alan was a mentor to me, as he was to many physicians, and his loss will be deeply felt by all of us. Stephen introduces himself. There will certainly be people at the service who don't know Alan's professional colleagues. I remember my first year like it was yesterday, and the help Alan offered me. I was a young physician just out of residency. Of course, I thought I knew everything, and of course my attitude was just a cover for the fact that I was terrified. It was a big city hospital with big city demands. I was proud to get the job, but secretly I felt out of my depth. Alan saw right through my cocky attitude. He didn't try to change it. He didn't try to get me to confess my uncertainty. He simply offered his friendship. He was a quiet, steady presence. And when I had my first crisis, losing a patient I didn't expect to lose, it was Alan I turned to. Asking for help wasn't easy for me in those days, but Alan made it very easy to talk. He offered his views on life and death, which, by the way, I thought I had all squared away by then. His words helped me see that wherever we are and whatever we think we know, we're all still at the beginning of understanding life and death, a lesson I am drawing on again today in trying to understand his loss. Stephen offers a very personal anecdote that reveals a lot about Alan's character and his personality and how he interacted with people. Stephen describes exactly what Alan meant to him. Our personal lives didn't intersect much. My family and I live in Evanston, and we spent most of our weekends at the lake. But Elaine, Garth, Terry, I feel as though I've known you all for years. Alan was so proud of you all. Every year there were new pictures of you in his office. He kept us posted on your most important activities. Garth, I still remember your dad telling us all about your balsa wood model airplanes and your feats of engineering. Terry, Alan shared with us your joy at getting your first horse and kept us abreast of your adventures. And Elaine, when he talked about you, which he did frequently, his whole face lit up. Stephen admits he didn't know the family well, but he offers what he does know as a tribute to Alan's commitment to his family. The incidents he recalls are personal and specific and will be remembered by the family. When my first child was born, Alan smiled, congratulated me, and quietly said, "This is the best thing that can ever happen to anyone." He knew, and he was right. A really nice little incident that shows Alan's values. Alan was not a religious man, but I know he believed in love. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me quoting Paul's letter to the Corinthians. "If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing." Alan had love, and we are all the richer for it. Alan was a fine physician who fathomed the mysteries and knowledge of his profession, but it was his understanding of love that marked him as an extraordinary person. Stephen handles this very nicely. He acknowledges that Alan was not religious, but he justifies the use of Scripture by showing its relevance to Alan's life and beliefs.